Hey everybody. I bet you're glad that all the testing's over. How many of you really enjoyed your morning? Well, I have a few questions for you. The picture on my slideshow states that the typical first use of alcohol is at age 12. How many of you can agree with that? Show of hands. Oh, there's more of you than that agree with that statement. Okay, 2 hands over there, that's good. Well, my first drink was around that age. I first drank around 11. Now you guys are 15 and 18 years old, and I'm sure a lot of you have already had your fair share of parties or drinks at home or with friends. I know when I was your age, that makes me sound really old right now, my best friend and I drank and partied all the time. Her mom would allow us to drink at their house, and then she knew that we weren't drinking and driving, and she knew that we would be safe under her roof, or so she thought. I need to be more coordinated. This is Tiffany and I in 2000. It was my junior year. We sat in those same seats. Well, not since they rearranged everything and they redid the whole school, but pretty much we sat in those same seats. We walked the same halls that you guys do. We had a lot of the same teachers. I had Miss Bear as well when I was younger. We did everything together. Have you ever had a best friend that you would do absolutely anything for? Show of hands. That's good. We both got suspended together because one time I hung up on her and she didn't like that very well. So the next day I came into school and she clapped me in the jaw and we went around rolling around on the floor. One of the teachers got burnt with their own hot coffee. But we both got suspended. And as soon as we got home, what was the first thing that you think we did? No, we didn't drink. We called each other and we were best friends again. I was up at her house within 5 seconds of being home. We look really happy here together, don't we? This is Tiff's senior picture. She was an honor roll student. She had a good bit of friends. She had respect from others, and a lot of people didn't know the real Tiff, behind the scenes, so to speak. Our partying started at the age of 13 and increased from there. By the time Tiff was a senior in high school, she dropped out of Southern and she started doing homeschooling. She did get her high school diploma, but she lived her secret life, and this was one way that she could do that. She could live at home and she could drink as much as she wanted. She drank and drank some more and she became an alcoholic. Her personal issues that she lived with were very hard on her and she couldn't handle it. Eventually it got to the point that she didn't want to live with them anymore. She hated herself for becoming the type of person that would be an alcoholic. She hated herself for not living up to the expectations that everybody set for her around her. To go to sleep at night, she would pop Tylenol PMs. Not just 1 or 2, but a handful. To wake up the next day, to get the day started, she would pop ephedrins. Again, not just 1 or 2, she would pop a whole handful. The combination of everything she was going through, and the pills and the alcohol, she didn't really have a chance. She was hooked before she even knew it. I remember Tiff as a very caring, kind-hearted person before the alcohol, and that's the person that I miss completely. I remember we threw a birthday party for her younger sister. I believe it was probably her 9th or 10th birthday party. She was so happy. We used to love the fairs, laying outside day or night, enjoying life. After the alcohol, she ended up being hollow and lifeless. When we were in school, there was a bad car accident, and a friend, Darren Cohenauer, I'm sure some of you probably remember that or know family members, or maybe that is family members to you. He died in a car accident. She wrote the most beautiful poem for him and his family, even though she didn't know them. She didn't know him except for here at school. And after she became addicted to the alcohol, she lost one of her friends at work that she used to work with. She acted like nothing even happened. It didn't even faze her. She had no feeling, no emotion. It was the total opposite of the Tiffany that we knew and loved. So the difference between that is she felt, before the alcohol, she felt for Darren and his family so much that it hurt her inside that she was able, one thing that Tiff did was she expressed herself through poems. She wrote everything down. She loved to read and write. And she expressed herself for that family. But even this person that she knew and was friends with, it didn't even faze her. That's how much alcohol has effects on you. After a few years went by of her drinking from the time she woke up to the time she went to bed, and she didn't sleep much in between, her side effects with her personality got much worse. She locked herself in her house. She wouldn't go to the store or even outside for very long. I drove to see her one time and begged her to come stay with me at my mom's house, which was 45 minutes away. She got mad at me because I told her no alcohol in the car, because I didn't want to get in trouble for having an open container. I said, you can live with it. You can live without it for just a few minutes until we get to my mom's. I said, and then I don't care what you do. She agreed, and we drove the whole way to my mom's, 45 minutes away. She had a panic attack. She couldn't get out of the car, and she begged me, crying, sobbing, to take her home, because she couldn't handle it. It was too much for her. So I drove her home. These are a few aspects that most people don't think of. How alcohol can attack you and grab you and destroy your life. I know that sounds pretty extensive because we all know alcoholics. I mean, I know a lot of people that are addicted to alcohol. I know a lot of people that these things don't happen to. But the thing of it is you don't know if it's going to be you or not. Tiffany ended up killing herself and her liver, and she had cirrhosis of the liver, hepatic encephalopathy, alcohol hepatitis, and central pontine myelinosis. I can't say that word. The liver is one organ, oh my God. Sorry. That is not on my mind, by the way. Okay. All right, well, at least everybody's awake now. All right, rewind and bleep that part out. The liver is one organ, organ in your body that can regenerate itself. If it's not damaged to a certain point, if it is damaged, there are transplants. In Tiffany's case, transplants were not an option. One, due to the long wait, she didn't have that much long to live for. And two, because she was an alcoholic. Honestly, think to yourself, would you give up your liver for an alcoholic to just destroy it? Cirrhosis kills your liver. The liver is one part of your body that detoxifies your blood from all the bad things that you choose to put in your body. When cirrhosis happens, it shuts down your liver and allows all the toxins to stay in your bloodstream. Hepatic encephalopathy, that's a tongue twister, is when all the toxins go to your brain and start shutting your whole body down. Your skin's turned yellow with jaundice, and your body puffs up like a marshmallow in a fire. Central pontine myelinosis is when all the toxins start shutting down your body and that you become paralyzed in a way that you can't speak or function any longer. This doesn't look like Tiff, does it? It's not the happy person that we had seen in the previous pictures. I took this picture of her while she was sleeping because if she would have known I was taking pictures of her, she probably would have killed me. It doesn't even look like her. Now you see how her face is swelled. Her abdomen, you can't tell by the blankets, but her abdomen was swelled. She's jaundiced and yellow in color because of her liver shutting down. Before Tiff went to the hospital, we found her laying on the couch at her house that she lived with her boyfriend. She was laying there. He would go to work during the day, make sure there was a cooler of alcohol next to her. She would lay there on the couch day in and day out, drinking, throwing up, going to the bathroom where she laid. She couldn't get up to take herself to the bathroom. But she continued to drink. Her body finally gave in. She ended up with aspirating pneumonia, which means that her lungs would fill up with fluid and she'd pretty much be drowning in her own body. She was in Hershey Hospital for a month, and then they released her to come home to die with her family and her friends where she was most comfortable. I still remember the last time that she told me that she loved me. It was the beginning of March 2006, before she lost the ability to talk. I went after work to visit her at the hospital, and the nurses allowed me to stay till 2 in the morning with her. We sat there and talked. I laid in bed with her. I gave her a bath. I told her I love you. And she replied to me, she said, "Don't say that." I said, "Why not? It's true. I do love you." She said, "Because every time you say that, you leave." I couldn't imagine being in that situation, being that scared, not knowing if you're gonna live, if you're gonna die. You're that far from home. Your family's not able to be there every day. I reassured her that I wasn't going anywhere. I just wanted her to know that I love her. And she said, "I love you too." A week later is when she came home from the hospital, not able to talk or to move much. The paralysis had set in, but she was able to still move slowly. She had a feeding tube, and she needed suctioned because of the fluids building up in her lungs and the mucus. We had different signs for things that she needed. She would go like this when she would need suctioned. She'd go like this when she wanted us to roll her over, because she knew that her lungs were filling up, and if we rolled her over, she was able to cough some of that up. It was definitely one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, was to watch my best friend die. It was a long 2 weeks, hard 2 weeks, watching her, my best friend in the whole world, die before me. Slowly, each day. Her family and I did everything that we could to keep her safe and comfortable, and to know that she wasn't alone. She passed away on her 22nd birthday, the morning of March 24th, 2006. Sorry, I'm crying. This is the first time that I've actually talked to a group of people about her situation. Now think of your best friend that you agreed that you had in the beginning of this presentation. Would you want to watch them suffer and go through things like Tiffany, her family, and I went through? Underage drinking has consequences. Alcoholism is a disease, and it can kill you. Drinking and driving can be fatal as well. Tip died over a period of 9 years. I didn't learn my lesson from her, and that kills me. I was stubborn, I guess, and I thought that I was invisible, just like I'm sure each one of you thinks that you're invisible too. 2 years after Tiff died, I was faced with a 1% chance of living due to drinking and driving. Now I'll continue. Does anybody have any questions about underage drinking and what happened with Tiffany, or anything that they'd like to share, any personal experiences or anything like that? You know, I once heard that if you ask a question, it makes you a fool for about 5 minutes. If you don't ask a question, it makes you a fool for your lifetime. The only way to get to know something, or to get to know more information, or to actually learn anything is by asking questions. So does anybody have anything that they want to share about Tiff or her situation or underage drinking? Yes?
Why did you guys start drinking at 11?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Why did you start drinking at 11?
Why did I start drinking at 11? Is that what you asked? Wow. I lived in Massachusetts, and I was just hanging out with some friends, and we got some alcohol from, I guess, her parents' house or something, and we just started drinking it. Like, it wasn't a big thing that we did on a regular basis, but that was when my first drink was. Anything else? Okay. So now I'll continue with my story and why I'm here in this chair today. Alcohol not only took my best friend from me, but it also took my ability to walk, run, play, and fully enjoy the life the way I once had. This is another one of my best friends, Ashley. We were sitting in this Jeep, and this is the Jeep that I wrecked about 2 weeks after this picture was taken. We were doing what we loved, enjoying the summer, listening to music, having fun together. And you know, on a hot day in the summertime, a cold beer is always nice. I had just graduated with my associate's degree, was hired. I was hired at the hospital in Huntingdon in the maternity ward. I was on cloud 9. My life was finally coming together, and I was bettering myself, and I was really, really proud of myself. Once you leave here, you'll earn your degrees, those of you that are wanting to continue with college, and you will see how amazing it feels to actually be successful. I know high school sucks, but once you get into college, it actually means something. Not to lessen high school at all, Miss Bear. This was one of my most accomplished days that I'd ever had. So we celebrated. We had cold beer every day that summer. Not every day was a drunk day, but on the weekends we got wasted. 2 weeks after my graduation was the day that changed my life forever, and most definitely kicked me off my cloud 9. This is a picture of us on our way to the motocross track the day that I had my car accident, June 27th, 2008. We started drinking at 9 o'clock that morning. Ashley told me that I had to bite the dog that bit me since I got drunk the night before with my brother. And the only way that the people that I was with, the only way that they had my mom's contact information was, or anybody's information to be able to contact them after my car accident, was because the night before I had been out drinking with my brother and his girlfriend, and her and I were text messaging each other through the bar, and I was texting her from the guy that I was seeing his cell phone. So that's the only way that they were able to contact my family to let them know that I was in a car accident. But here we are on our way to the motocross track. We're gonna lay out in the hot sun and enjoy cold refreshments. This is a picture of the Jeep before the accident. It had 33-inch tires on it. It was really a piece of work. I loved driving it, but I wasn't safe in it. I always had the doors off and the roofs off, and I never wore a seatbelt. There's not that much damage to it from the car accident. I was only doing about 30 miles an hour. Does anybody know up in Huntingdon, the road that leads out to the dam? The Snyder's Run overlook and their boat launch? You guys know what I'm talking about? If you keep going straight, then there's an iron bridge on your left, and then there's a few little S-turns there. That's where I wrecked. But I was less than a mile away from my best friend's house. We actually got home from the track, and it was time to get her daughter from daycare. So it wasn't just us in the vehicle when we wrecked. We had a 2-year-old with us. It was one of the worst decisions I've ever made in my life. I'm very thankful that I'm the one that got hurt the most. Ashley walked away, and Jillian ended up with a broken arm. We were doing about 30 miles an hour, and I never understood. Whenever we'd have presentations whenever we were in high school, and I'd heard it a million times before, that alcohol slows your responses when you're driving, and not to drink and drive for this reason or this reason. And I listened for the most part up until that summer, and that's when I started drinking and driving. But I never understood, what's the big point? What's the big deal? Like, I could drive perfectly fine. Sometimes I drive better when I'm drinking, and then I drive when I'm sober. The point is that it does slow your reflexes down. You think about, how many of you are football players? Okay, so you think about half of the football field, 150 feet. That's how long I was driving off the side of the road in a ditch before I realized it. 150 feet. Then I hit a 3-foot ditch. And that's what made me think, oh crap, what happened? I didn't know I was off the side of the road. Ashley didn't even tell me. Like, I don't know what was going on in her mind either, but we were both drunk. We hit the 3-foot ditch. The Jeep went up the embankment, sideswiped a tree. I fell out. The Jeep rolled over and crushed me. I ended up with a lot of injuries. I had a 1% chance of living. 1%. There was one time a few years ago when my daughter, which is here today with me, I explained it to her, maybe it was last year or something. She was in 2nd grade. And I explained it to her in the one way that I thought that she could understand. I drew 100 lines on a piece of paper, and I circled one. I said, This is how much chance I had to live, and this is how much chance I had to die. This is a picture of my x-ray. Can you guys see it? Is there a pointer on this thing? The middle button?
Top right. Red.
Huh?
Top right. Red button on the top.
The bottom button?
The red button on the top.
Oh, the red button at the top? Aha. Okay, so you see these 3 vertebrae? Do you notice that they are not in my spinal column? The Jeep rolled over me and busted 3 of my vertebrae out of my spinal column. I had fractures the whole way down my spine. I had a broken shoulder, a bruised heart, a lacerated liver. What? Oh, my ribs. My ribs were broken.
The lungs.
What?
Your lungs. Oh,
Oh yeah, 2 collapsed lungs. Oh, that was a big one too. You're messing me up, shut up. So yes, 2 collapsed lungs, bruised heart, lacerated liver, 3 vertebrae busted out of my spinal column, fractures the whole way down my back, broken ribs, broken shoulder, and my spinal cord was severed, completely cut in half. Your spinal cord, I don't know if you guys know too much about your insides, but your spinal cord takes care of everything in your body. It's like the main frame for your brain. That's how all your information gets up to your brain. Mine was cut in half, so half my body doesn't talk to my brain. When the fire company got there, I did go later on, well actually before the fire company got there, the girl in front of me had stopped and the guy in front of her had stopped. The guy said to me, how many of you guys are hunters first? How many of you have killed a deer and listened to its last breath? Doesn't that sound pretty excruciating for the deer? Yeah? The guy that came back to the scene told me I sounded like a deer taking its last breath. These 2 girls in the front, they have gray t-shirts on. The fire company, the fire chief told me when he got there, my skin looked as if you would put your gray t-shirt underwater and it got that dark gray. That's how my skin looked. I didn't get a DUI because the state police officer that was there talked to the fire chief and he said, she's not going to make it to the hospital. They knew that I had no feeling, I couldn't move my legs. They didn't know how extensive everything was, but they life-flighted me to Altoona and then to Pittsburgh, where I spent 7 weeks in rehab, or 7 weeks in ICU and 6 weeks in rehab. The 7 weeks in ICU, my mom and the doctors didn't know if I was going to make it for about a month. It was really touch and go. I couldn't imagine getting that phone call, being a parent, as I am a parent. This is my daughter here. Say hi. I couldn't imagine getting that phone call that your son or daughter is on their way, is being life-flighted, and it's a good possibility that they're not going to make it through the night. I would die if I got that phone call. I would be completely ballistic, as I'm sure all of your parents would be too. But we got to the ICU, and when I woke up, the nurse told me that my blood alcohol level was only as if I'd drank 1 beer. I thought to myself, shit, I started drinking at 9 o'clock that morning. There's no way. my blood alcohol level was at, I only drank 1 beer. Then I remember the doctor telling me that I'll never walk again. I remember telling my stepdad happy birthday because I wrecked on his birthday. I had a trach in, so I couldn't talk for 7 weeks. I had the 2 collapsed lungs. I had pneumonia. I had lung infections after lung infections. I had, if you have ever seen anybody in the ICU when they have the trach and they're hooked up to a ventilator, there's different tubes that come off of it. I had a tube coming out of my nose. I had tubes coming out of my chest, out of my sides. I looked like a great big octopus with crap hanging out all over from me. I remember the first day that Jalen came to see me. She was skipping down the hall, so excited, because whenever I first woke up, I told my mom, I said, well, I wrote it down because I couldn't talk. I said, I can't do this anymore. I cannot do this without my baby. I said, you have to go get her. She dropped everything and drove 3 hours to come back to get my daughter and to drive 3 hours back to the hospital just for me to see my baby. She was, let's see, I might be getting ahead of myself here. Yes. Okay, this is a picture of me in rehab. I'll get to that, I'll finish that point up in a minute. This is me in rehab. I had lost 30 pounds when I was in the hospital. I was already a twig before I went to the hospital, let alone to lose 30 more pounds. But this is after they knew that I was going to live and I went to rehab. This is how old Jalen was. She was 4 at the time. It was 12 days past her birthday. She had just turned 4. So I remember her skipping down the hall and coming to see me. She was so happy. And like, how many of you have little kids that you know that are 3 or 4 years old?